Hello and welcome back to the Vancouver Actors Podcast. I am formerly your host, Michael Coleman, and now I am your co-host, Michael Coleman, as we welcome a new addition to the team. This is my co-host, Sidney Quesnelle. Say hello, Sidney.
Hello, I am Sidney Quesnelle, the other co-host.
There we go. And so we are going to go through a lot of different things through the industry, give you some advice. We'll have some guests on and answer any questions you may or may not have with regards to the audition process or booking or anything industry related. Today's podcast, we want to focus on a big part of what we're doing in the industry right now, which is
self-tapes,
which
is the number one way that all auditions are going right now. So if you don't know how to self-tape, you won't get in anyway.
Yeah, so right now we're still living in a global pandemic, so we are finding that this is an evolved part of our craft, and we don't know how long it is here to stay. I mean, who knows? I mean, uncertainty is the one certainty we have in the world right now. But we want to walk through a few different things in terms of audition preparation and also some self-tape advice. Yeah. So we're going to get started, and we're just going to have a little, we're going to discuss a few ideas. And once again, I want to remind you to definitely subscribe to our channel. You can find us on YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, all the different platforms for podcasts. And if you have any questions or you have any topics you'd like Sidney and I to discuss, we encourage you to email Lydia Rimmer, that is our producer, Lydia, L-Y, because we love her, DIARIMMER at storyinstitute.ca, and we'd be more than happy to field your questions on air and hopefully offer a little more advice and some different guidance with regards to any element you have with regard to the industry. So let's start with preparing the audition.
Yeah, great.
Do you have any thoughts that you might want to start out with out the gate?
One of my favorite things that I learned from this guy over here is read it 3 times without any knowledge of it. So read through the breakdown 3 times, read through every character 3 times, and read through the script 3 times with no judgments, no ideas whatsoever. Then that way you get a better idea of the story, you get a better idea of the tone, because maybe the producers made something else that's all kind of creepy. So maybe this might be kind of creepy if that's kind of their tone overall.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think it's a great place to start. I feel like one of the things we have done in the world of film and television is I feel like we're always in such a fast track because it's such an efficient process. So we generally will get our audition maybe a day in advance. We're like, hey, I need this by 10 a.m. tomorrow. So there's a built-in sense of urgency. And I think because there's that built-in sense of urgency, we have a desire to fast track certain things or to get to the point where we're ready. But it doesn't mean we should skip certain skills. So yeah, Sidney's bang on right here that, actors have one job and that's serve the story. So our advice would be to read every piece of information you have. None of it was written arbitrarily or randomly or because somebody just had extra time on their hands was like, I don't know.
Yeah, and the story doesn't start with the script. The story starts with who's creating the story as well. And I think that's something that's really important. And IMDb Pro makes it super easy to go through each person that's involved in it. It's full ideas. You can also see who's already signed on to the project as well to see what they've been in and kind of see, if they're a very comedic actor, maybe your character is actually more of the deadpan one. So not playing it the same way as them. I don't know. Go down the IMDb rabbit hole. Highly recommend.
I think it's a great idea. It's one of the things, I think a lot of people get out the gate. They're like, what do I need IMDb Pro for? By the way, if you're listening to this in Vancouver and you're a union member, you can contact your union and get a discount. So union members get a discount for IMDb Pro. But it's, a lot of us wonder, well, what do I need to know all this extra information for? But Sidney's bang on, a lot of people end up doing very similar sorts of tones or types of projects, or when you see different collaborations, you can start seeing a better idea about the nature of what the story's going to be from a tone standpoint or the kind of direction it's going to go in. So utilize all that information and make sure you have as much information as possible.
Yeah, that's just something that I always do. And then I start getting into the nitty gritty of the character work and doing my great opera, which is check out the other podcast on the Great Opera.
Yes, for sure.
And I don't start the Great Opera until I kind of understand the overall premise of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's funny you say it because it's exactly what I do with when I get an audition breakdown. One of the first things I do is I look at who's producing, who's directing, who wrote it, and I go to IMDb Pro and I look up all of their information. And I'll find, rarely is someone oh, they wrote that super big thriller and that broad comedy and they did that Hallmark rom-com. Like, it's rarely the case. Like, usually they have a certain thing they've been doing and there's a synergy between projects. So I find this a really great place to start, so I get an idea of, okay, I'm getting an idea of the tone, and then, not unlike what you said, I'll read through everything in the breakdown, not just my character, but the storyline in every other character, because there's a good chance you might talk to some of these other people in the script.
And if it's on like something like Casting Workbook or Actors Access, when they send you all the sides for the project, I've done this as well, where my character's sides is only one scene, but once I read through every other side, my character's brought up a ton. So then you know how other characters are interacting with you, how your character's actually interacting with other people, and you get more of an idea of the full story. Because when you look at the script and you see what page number it is, you can look through the rest of the sides and see what happened before that, what happened after that. I think that's really important for actually fully understanding the full story.
I think it's a brilliant piece of advice. Again, we go back to, I know a lot of us want to get to the part where we're ready to be amazing and we've memorized the lines and we're going to do all the cool stuff. But, hopefully this podcast and this episode in particular gives you an opportunity to give you a greater sense of confidence and a greater sense of depth and authenticity to your work by offering you a few different ways that you can mine a little deeper. So it's worth it. If you spend a little bit of extra time in the preparation, you can find some of the other steps go a lot faster.
Yeah, I was going to say, it almost feels like you're not spending more time, because since I started going to Story Institute, like when I first started with the free classes, that was over the beginning of COVID, I found that I used to spend so much time just like trying to memorize lines with all these like wacky memorization techniques.
Yeah.
When now I don't think I've even tried to actually remember what the words are, but I've spent hours doing everything else that it just kind of comes out.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I do so much prep that by the time I'm ready to start learning my lines, well, I already learned them because I learned them accidentally while I was doing the other stuff to understand what the story was doing or what the characters were doing. And hopefully we can give you some different tips and ideas today that'll give you a chance to have that same opportunity. And, I would still say one of the most common things I hear from actors that I'm coaching or working with that are new to me or new to the process is they gauge their performance by whether or not they remembered all their lines. So it's like, how'd you do? I don't know, I messed up a line, or I forgot one of my words. And it's like, it was never about that. But if you're still at the part of auditioning where your focus is, can I remember all these words in the right order? You're probably not at the place where you want to be.
Yeah, some casting directors do care a lot about that, but that's where all the research comes with too, because I know there's certain casting directors, I won't say who in town, but they've had talks where they just kind of say, if you say a word wrong, they're not going to cast you, because for this particular network, you need to show that you can get off book really fast. But that's not everyone, and I'm sure if you're selling the story, they're not actually going to care. But just like looking at each casting director, they've probably done some sort of Instagram Live, some sort of podcast, something, sure. So you know what they specifically want, because casting directors are just people who all have different things that they like. Not everybody likes vanilla ice cream.
Which is crazy because it is the best flavor. All right, we'll fight about that later. But yeah, and on that note as well, I would say, even if, I work as a writer, so I always, as a writer, want every actor to say things as I wrote it, because I did it on purpose, and it usually takes me years to get a script ready. At the same time, I'll say, I've been now working this industry for 30 plus years, and I've had the luxury of working with some of the biggest names in Hollywood, and none of them have ever got all their lines right all the time. So just make sure you're aware of that too, that shouldn't be the barometer for whether I'm doing a good job or not. It is most certainly your obligation. It is most certainly respectful to the writer and the process, but that shouldn't be the gauge of, did I do a good audition or not? Your good audition is, did you serve the story, and do we get an idea of who you are as the character? And yes, you most certainly should be off book and you should know all your lines, because there's no excuse not to in today's world, but I wouldn't let that be the defining factor.
And a lot of the preparation for auditions is way before you got the audition, or way before you even got to the point of getting an agent. And so once you're here and you've got an audition, know that you've done a lot of the work already, because it's already in your tool belt. And if you're counting right now of what is a goal in a scene, maybe you weren't quite ready to audition. That's okay. You're going to kill it.
Well,
and then learn it now. But most of the time, you've probably done that training to get an audition. So you can usually kind of rest on what you have already worked on.
Yeah, I would say if you're at the point where you're about to audition for something, whether it's in person or on tape, and your biggest concern is, oh, I can't remember that line. Oh, you're probably not ready to audition yet. There's a famous saying, dress for the job you want, not for the job you have. I would make the same statement with regards for auditioning. Don't approach this like it's a tryout or an interview. Approach it like you already have the job and show us what it looks like when you're in the role. Show us what you would do. Do that same level of preparation. Like if you were to book the role and you were on set, you wouldn't be sitting in there in your trailer still trying to figure out, I hope I can get all the lines right.
I hope they like the way I do it, because you're you're going to do it how you do it. And then you might get some notes afterwards.
Sure. And I guess on that note, I think a lot of times people are saying, well, I want them to know that it's still a work in progress and I'm still directable. So I don't want to sound too polished because, well, then it might not look like I'm ready to be directable. But here's the spoiler alert. Even once you book the role, you still need to be directable. That's not a thing. I go back to prior to when we had cameras and everybody had to just do theater because the stage was the only option, and we, to this day when people do theater, people memorize their lines, they rehearse it for weeks and weeks on end, and then they perform it. And the expectation is, yes, to perform it authentically and behave truthfully under imaginary circumstances as though it's happening live. But you would never see somebody going in to do a play saying, I don't want to get too off book, or I don't want to get it too polished. I want them to know that I'm still directable.
Yeah. Like you, even on set, every one of your takes before, obviously you've done the master, you need to change it on the close-up. But you should be kind of switched up a little bit, having some spontaneity, having a little bit of pizzazz, as long as pizzazz.
Nope, pizzazz is it. You can't untake that.
Nope.
There's no editing button. Pizzazz.
So you need to have some pizzazz in every take, but that pizzazz still has to have all of your character work in it. So it's just like a slightly different pizzazz.
For sure. It's all about the levels of pizzazz. Pizzazz is like an onion. So many layers of pizzazz. But again, hopefully what you're hearing from here is what both of us would advise, I think, is that you need to build a system so that when you do get an audition, understanding that they're all going to be within 24 to 48 hour turnaround, you might need it the next morning, all these sorts of things. You have to build an efficient system so that you don't panic every time you get an audition wondering, oh my goodness, how many lines do I have to memorize? Oh my goodness, I've got 2 auditions. How am I going to do 2 auditions? The insanity of it all. So you already know that's the process. So if you're surprised every time that happens, you're either a goldfish, my cat, or you're just simply unprepared. So there's a really good chance you're not my cat or a goldfish. So it means you're probably...
But you are lucky.
You are lucky. That is true. So...
His name is Lucky.
So what I would advise you do is I would say make sure that you find a system that allows you an efficiency to your process. So like Sidney said, what we both do in our process is we go through the audition, everything 3 times. Learn who everybody is, who's involved, learn all the characters, all their breakdowns, read through your script 3 times, every scene you have, and try not to make any judgments. Learn what the story is first before you start trying to worry about what you're going to do with it.
Yeah, 100%. I think that another big part of it is a lot of people look at like the Great Opera or like the 10 questions that Larry Moss does and things like that as I need to make this whole story about me because I know so much about my life. And really it's just a way to be grounded in your character, because even if you're just the supermarket attendant, you still do the Great Opera and you still kind of ground yourself in that character. But not everybody needs to know every single part of your Great Opera. If it's all over your face of this environment is where, this supermarket is where my mom died, weird choice. But but we don't need to see that. That can be back in the back of your brain. It doesn't.
Yeah, where the smaller pizzazz lives.
Smaller pizzazz. Just like knowing where your character serves the story as well, rather than not everyone is the lead character.
So in terms of whether you're auditioning in person or on tape, as it looks like we'll be doing for the next several months at the very least, our advice is be aware you're going to get lots of opportunities, hopefully, if you're doing things in the right way and creating the right impression that gets people inviting you back. So find a system that doesn't have you panic every time you get an audition email. Have something that creates a sense of joy. Yay! More opportunities.
And can I add to that as well?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Every time you get an audition, especially if you're starting out, the audition character might not be right for you, and the casting director might also agree it's not right for you, but it's just a way to see how you work with the text. So just use every time as an exciting opportunity to perform for the casting director, potentially the producer and director. Even if this audition isn't for your, like, that's not what you're going to get right now, it's just another stepping stone to know that you can be off book. You can do all of this, and it's just filling your repertoire.
Yeah, I would say every audition is just an opportunity for an opportunity. So it's either an opportunity for a booking or an opportunity for more auditions, but just see it as that. Every opportunity is an opportunity for an opportunity.
But physically, for preparation for self-tapes, I would say is slightly different than going in the room.
Sure.
Because you need to have somewhere in your house that maybe you don't have pictures on that one wall.
Sure.
Maybe it's somewhere where you, right above your couch, maybe you have to move your couch every time you do a self-tape. Somewhere that's just like blank wall that you can tape against.
Yeah.
The number one thing I would say for framing wise.
For sure. So here's a couple things we're going to give you in terms of self-tape advice, and then we'll give you some resources as well, because there's some people that have already released some amazing materials that we think are must-sees for everybody. So, firstly, what I would say we would do in terms of a self-tape is to think of the technical aspect. So, again, you want a clean wall. We have a nice blue wall here. But you can also see when my hand gets too close to that wall, you can see all the extra shadows. So what I would say is pull yourself off the wall a little bit so that you don't have all the extra shadows. Next thing is a lot of people will use something like this. They'll use a ring light. Fantastic. It's a great idea. I'm going to poorly light this podcast for a few seconds to show you. We have a couple of these LED lights and we do them on either side.
These ones are quite expensive, really nice ones, but Newer has cheaper versions as well that, although they're not great for a studio, they're great for at home. And
that's all you need. Like for your self-taping at home, that's all you need. So don't overthink it and find what you need. So again, get rid of the shadows. So if we're too close to the wall, then all of a sudden we get all these extra shadows, as you can see in the background here. So pull yourself off the wall, get yourself a nice clean wall to shoot against. Make sure you have adequate sound. When you're putting it together, I use a piece of software called Movavi, Movavi, and that's a great way. You can noise reduction, you can change the size of the file, all these different things you can do, because casting has a lot of requests right now. Like we want
100 megabytes MP4
MP4
than MOV, which if you're using your phone, which you can totally use, most phones are fine. If you're on an iPhone and use iMovie, it will export it as an MOV file, so make sure that you convert it to an MP4 as well.
So there's a lot of different things, and what I'm going to invite you to do again is to email our producer Lydia Rimmer at storyinstitute.ca if you have any questions, and she can send you out a list of different software we use, or different recommendations on cameras or ring lights or anything of the sort. You can do it as a cost-effective way, so you don't need to be spending an arm and a leg on this. But remember, this is also your business. So you're running a small business, and part of the expenses during a global pandemic is that we're all shooting things with our own lights, our own cameras, and our own software. So be smart about it and find the right way where you can have a cost-effective way to create a really professional audition without
breaking the bank.
Yeah.
But that being said, just know that there are other people. Like my agent recently said a really good thing, where the casting director doesn't care you live in a basement suite. They don't need to know that. So you can even get a good light from IKEA, but just know that other people do have good lighting sets. So do the best of what you can, like what you have, to make it look like you have a great lighting set. They don't need to know that you're using IKEA lamps, but... No,
for sure. I've been on film sets where you use IKEA lamps. Again, there's lots of different ways to do it. So just never be apologetic, and never send in a tape that is like, here's an audition, imagine this, but amazing.
Even the dollar stores clamp on ring lights now for your phone.
For sure.
Like, you can do great with $15. Or Marketplace. So many people are upgrading now from their ring lights they bought at the beginning of COVID to now they have some money for getting better lighting. So just look on Marketplace, look on there. That's how I got my first set of umbrella lights. I got them for $50, and it was 4 lights, which is a great deal.
It's a fantastic
just from Facebook Marketplace.
So I'd say just to summarize a few points here is, make sure you got a decent camera, which can be your smartphone because they're brilliant cameras. Get a decent set of lighting. Make sure the sound works. The natural sound on the phone works, or you can get external mics at a relatively cheap price now. Mm-hmm. Make sure you have the right software. Make sure you can convert it to an MP4 file. Make sure it's under 100 megabytes. Like, again, if you don't have access to Google, Does everybody have access to Google now?
Should.
Yeah, like in the planet, like, is that a new thing? Everybody knows Google. So you can Google it, and if you don't want to Google it, you can let us Google it for you, and we can send you links or different advice or sheets to help you with the technical aspects. You had an idea though on there's one of our local casting directors did an amazing self-tape video that's useful not just for Vancouver actors, but everybody. They did a marvelous job.
Yeah, Jackie Lind has, I believe it's just on her website. We'll link it down below. And it is just like kind of explains exactly what she expects. And then all the other casting directors in Vancouver were like, yep, sounds good to me. Thanks, Jackie. And then just kind of, that's what they're expecting as well. So it's just an easy, quick checklist to go through. If you're just getting started and it's kind of your first self-tape, or maybe it's your 100th self-tape and you're a little bit forgetful, print it out and check it as you go through it. Like, do I have good lighting? Check. Is there lots of noise outside? No? Cool. It's quiet enough. Check. They can hear me. And do test runs. Like, do test runs of your video.
I would say, one of the common things that a lot of different people will say behind doors, casting directors, agents, actors, is that, even with all this information available, there's still a very large percentage of people that are sending in substandard audition tapes. And that only makes it easier for those who are willing to go the extra mile. So don't put yourself in the no pile before you even got a chance to be seen.
Because I know a lot of people are like, well, Emma Stone got booked for Easy A from recording it on her MacBook laptop on her bed. Well, it's not 2007 anymore.
Yeah.
We're kind of expecting a little bit more, and that's a one-person thing.
Sure, that's a lottery type idea. So if your whole career is based on, I'm going to buy lottery tickets and scratch them and hopefully get 3 of a kind, people do make money that way, but it's actually not the best way to run a business.
Yeah, don't give them a reason to say no to you before you've even started acting.
Yeah, so our advice here today is be really smart about your audition prep so that you are ready to go with as many auditions that you're able to get and as many auditions as your agent is going to submit, and they excite you and don't scare you, so you're able to do your best work. And then make sure you do just some of the really basic, simple things because of Google and other elements that are out there. The expectation is that you shoot it, you light it, it sounds good, it looks great, and your performance is there. There's enough people doing it that more than one person is always going to be amazing at every audition. So you want to get into that category because that category is tough enough. You don't want to be kicked out of the pile because you don't have great lighting, you didn't do enough prep, your sound is off or anything like that. Don't give them a reason to say no before you even got to step in the room.
And I saw this Facebook post today asking about self-tapes and how they find that whenever they were going in the room all the time, they prepped enough so they felt like their first or second take was good enough. And they feel like for self-tapes, they record like 100 of them. Do the same amount of prep as you would in the room. I think that when I do a self-tape, I don't usually do more than maximum 5 takes, but that's with like coaching with someone working through it with you. But if you don't have a coach and you've prepped it as much as possible, it's not going to get better 10 takes in. More often than not, it's going to be more rehearsed, more like, oh, I'm going to look over here, I'm going to look over here, instead of keeping that spontaneity. Don't watch every single one and just beat on yourself. Like, maybe just spend more time prepping and not 100 takes in front of the camera.
Yeah, I'd say go back to make the whole purpose of your audition is how does this scene serve the story and how does my character serve this scene? And if you keep it that simple, then it's never going to be about, oh, I took a weird breath there, or oh, I even, flubbed a part of a word or something. Like, we're not looking for perfection. That's never the idea. So learn how to serve the story and be authentic and grounded and engaged in what you're doing, and chances are you're going to get a better chance.
And just remember that, like, in a casting room, you have 15 minutes. So don't take 4 hours.
Yeah, if you're taking 4 hours for your self-tapes, you're not preparing the right way. So again, to go back, make sure you're prepared. You're prepared to do it the same way you would do it if you did it in person. Make sure you're doing all the research you need on the technical aspects from sound, lighting, editing, so that you're submitting a professional tape. And just treat every single audition, literally every single audition, like it's the one, and someday it will be. And then eventually it'll be like that more often and more often. But don't try to get lucky. Don't think because you got all the words right that you nailed it, or this is the time where I was able to muster a drop of water from my eyeball during a sad moment. Be authentic, be real, behave truthfully in your imaginary circumstances, suspend disbelief, be there, serve the story. Do that time and time again, and then don't let your tech or anything else be a distraction, and you'll start working.
And if you treat every audition like it's the one, you're no longer waiting for the one and not seeming desperate for the one every single time.
100%. So yeah, again, dress for the job you want, not the one you got. So come into the audition like, this is what it looks like if I did the role. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean you're not directable. And it doesn't mean that you have to leave off a certain amount of polish so that we know, oh, there's still a work in progress. We're all works in progress, and we will be for all of our days.
Can I tell a quick audition story?
Please do.
So this is for community theater, so totally different.
As long as there's lots of pizzazz.
There's lots of pizzazz.
Okay.
Little 13-year-old me walked in, no tap experience, and this is for Singing in the Rain. I walked in, had no reason to be nervous because it was my very first audition. Walked in, sang a Disney song, don't do that, and then walked out, didn't go to the tap auditions, and they called me. I somehow got a call back from it, and they said it's because I was so confident and looked like I was enjoying myself. That's because I didn't know to be not confident, and I wasn't scared of auditions yet. So if you walk in confident and like, oh, this is fine, this is just me acting, you're going to appear that way.
That's
and
great.
You're more likely to be brought back because they're not like, oh, they were just crapping themselves on the stage, being nervous about just singing in front of 3 people. What are they going to be like in front of 100?
Well, on the same note, about 25 years ago, I had an audition where I had to sing. It was for a television project, and I walked in and I was so focused on getting the words right that I made a mistake, and I stopped, and I was nervous, and I let the cast director know, you know what, I'm so sorry. I just need a couple minutes. I can't remember the words of the song right now. And then they said to me, that's okay. Not everybody can do this. Thank you. And that was the end of my audition.
That would have been the end of all. Peace out.
Yeah, so it was a meaner time. But also, it was abundantly clear that even if I was going to memorize all the words or find the time, I wasn't ready to audition that day. I wasn't ready to perform. I wasn't ready to show them a game day performance. So I wasn't ready to audition. And in hindsight, still pretty mean. But
yeah, still very mean, but at the same time.
Also, I wasn't ready, and you know, that's sometimes the way we learn, and I learned the hard way that you treat every audition like it's the booking, and sometimes they like the booking so much, the next time they'll pay you, they'll get you a trailer, the whole fun thing, they'll bring in other people, lights and some food and stuff, but treat every audition like it is the performance, and sometimes it's an audience of 1 or 2, great, kill it, it's your performance, treat it as such.
Especially at the beginning of your career and you're not booking anything yet, getting auditions is the first time you get a script that somebody thinks is made for you. So really take that opportunity to actually like have fun with it and act as if it's your day on set, because at the beginning you've had none. So this is the closest thing to it anyways.
100%. So this can be an amazing career. It can be lots and lots of fun, but you know, treat it like a professional and it'll treat you like a professional. So be prepared, create a system that's efficient so that you can have the depth that you want without the panic, and you can transition your fear into excitement. Take the advice we have, and I don't know if the link is below, but I think this is what you're supposed to do on videos. You do this, and then the link shows up.
Or there's a card.
Yeah, or you do like you point things. It's like Dragon Ball Z.
Have fun, Lydia.
So yeah, we'll get our visual effects team. Lydia's going to love that. She will take all the things and we'll throw them at you like this. So hopefully that worked, and that wasn't just me taking an airball. What a cheap podcast if that's all we're doing here, Lydia. But yeah, so you have all the tools you need. Please email Lydia Rimmer at storyinstitute.ca if you want more information or more specifics about anything we've talked about here today. We do want to quickly do another quick shout out to weaudition.com. That's our first sponsor. So if you use the promo code Vancouver Actors, you get 25% off. We'd love to hear from you in terms of how that experience is. We're excited to have them on board for Vancouver Actors Podcast.
Yeah, so what it does is you can actually find a reader at really short notice, because right now, obviously, pandemic, you can't just be inviting random people into your house to tape with you. And this has people that are vetted. It kind of has like a Uber rating system, so you know who's like a good reader, who's on time, who doesn't overact for you, and you can choose a reader that's good for you. There's obviously a lot of other ways you can do that. There's like different Vancouver groups on Facebook, but this way you know that whoever you're choosing is going to be actually show up for you and have good sound, have good video quality and read well for you. And if you're a good reader, they have like readers of the week kind of thing that they post on the social media about you with your headshot for even more people to see.
Huge win-win with this. So weaudition.com, we're really grateful for them. As you can see, I just flubbed their name as I said it. So even when we have all the words, we make mistakes. Weaudition.com. We continue like professionals. Give them a try. Let us know how it goes. Vancouver Actors is your promo code. Again, please subscribe to our channel. Let us know if there's anything we can do to give you more insight or ideas, or if there's anything further you want from this podcast. Lydia would be more than happy to when she finishes all the special effects we're putting into the show right now.